it's Michelle, and today I'm excited to be doing another collab video with my friend HappyBird. If you guys have ever watched her channel, you know that she has some wonderful patterns over on her blog that she uses to make some beautiful Christmas ornaments. And for her video in our collab today, she's going to be using this beautiful poinsettia pattern that you can print off over on her blog, and I'll have all of her links in the description below so you can go over there and get that. Mine is printed off a little lightly here. It's kind of gray looking. I was almost out of ink, but I managed to get it printed off so we can do this today. She's doing hers as a Christmas ornament, and I'll be using her same pattern to cut out cardstock and put my poinsettia on a card. I thought that would be another really fun way to use her beautiful patterns. So before we get started on cutting out that pattern, I'm going to go ahead and stamp a sentiment on my card and get that ready. And I'm using my Misty today. I've already put my card base in here, and I just sort of used a light gray neutral kind of color as the background for my card because I'm going to make a beautiful pink sparkly poinsettia to go on the front. And I'm going to be stamping Merry Christmas on the front of that, and that is again from my Hero Arts Celebrate Every Day stamp set. So I've already positioned that the way I wanted and gotten it mounted to the front of my Misty door, and all you have to do for that is to make sure that your card is aligned into the corner, and you can hold it down with your magnet so that it stays in place. And if you make sure that it is in the corner, or at least by some measurement on your page here, held down in the same position every time, you can position your stamp the way you want it and get your placement on the card front the way that you want it, and then close the Misty door and it picks it up like an acrylic block. And if you don't get perfect stamping the first time, you can restamp because you know that your card is in the exact same position every time. So I'm just stamping Merry Christmas, and I wanted to heat emboss that. So I'm going to be using Versamark ink and my gold tinsel embossing powder. But first I want to take my anti-static powder tool, and this just puts down a fine coat of anti-static powder on there. That way my embossing powder won't stick to other areas where I don't want it. And it'll only stick where I put the Versamark ink. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up my Merry Christmas. And just close the door on that and stamp it right down. And I love the Misty. It ensures that I get a really perfect stamp every time. And if not, I can always restamp. So then I'm just going to put my gold powder on top of that. And tap off the excess. And I can just put all of my extra right back into my jar. And I'm going to heat that with my heat tool. I'm going to let that get good and hot before I take it to the project so it doesn't warp my paper. Because if I don't let my tool get good and hot first, then I have to stay there longer, and that causes my cardstock to warp. So just a few seconds for that to heat up, and then we can go to the project. And I hope I can hold this in a position where you guys can see as that melts. And now you can see that beautiful metallic look that we get on there. And I'm going to leave the inside blank, and we can put a handwritten sentiment in there later on when I'm ready to use the card. But for now, just the gold Merry Christmas, I think, is all I want on there. And we get to work on the fun part, which is our poinsettia. And I'm going to be using this beautiful pink glitter cardstock that I got from Joann. And that is the Coordinations by American Crafts in Princess Pink. So I'm just going to measure the width here and make sure that I've got enough width. And I'm going to cut my cardstock down to a smaller piece to work with. I'm going to go ahead and rough cut all of my poinsettia layers. And I'm going to go ahead and use some double-sided tape to stick that to my cardstock, but it won't stick very well to the glittered side, so I'm just going to flip it over and stick it right on the back. And that's going to work really easily because we are working with symmetrical shapes. But if you did not have a symmetrical shape and you still needed to adhere it to the back side, then you're going to want to do that in the reverse. So you could just hold this up to a light or a window and trace your pattern on the back side so that you know where to cut from, and then you can tape that face down on the back side so that your image will be correct when you cut it out from the wrong side. But I don't need to worry about that today because it is symmetrical, so I'm just going to put a little piece of my double-sided tape just to hold that in place. And get those on there where we can cut them out. And then just follow along the lines. And this pattern is such simple shapes. It's really easy to cut out right along those petals. I'm even using large clunky scissors and really still not having any issue. So I'm going to go ahead and get all three of these cut out. And then I will come back, and you can see with that on the back side how that's turning out on my glittery side. So when I get all these cut out, I'll come back and show you how to layer this and put it together for a beautiful poinsettia card. Okay, so I've got all of my pieces cut out. This is my number 1, number 2, and number 3 layers of my poinsettia. And after I got those cut out, I peeled my number 1 layer off of there and used it to cut this again from a green cardstock. And this is sort of a minty green with a little bit of a swirly pattern in there. I thought that would go really good with the pink for like a vintage Christmas kind of look. So I'm going to go ahead and take all of my patterns off of there and set those aside. And then all we really have to do is layer this onto our card. And you can do this any way you want. You can put them straight down on top of each other, or you can use foam tape to give a little bit of dimension between the layers, however you want to do it. The first thing I think I'm going to do is cut down my leaves a little bit. I don't want all of these to show as leaves. I thought maybe a couple over here and maybe one off to the side. So I'm just going to cut the rest of those petals away. And I can even save these as leaves for behind the next one maybe. And I think that is going to look really good. So I'm just going to use some art glitter glue and go ahead and place those down first. Kind of use my layer here to figure out where I want those to be. So I'm going to want my flower about there. So I'm just going to hold it right where I want it. Put some art glitter glue underneath. And then I can build from there. So I've got my leaves flat down onto my card front. And I think I might want to give a little bit of dimension to my flower. So what I'm going to do is kind of bend this along those areas between the petals and see if maybe I can get it to just come up a little bit and give a little bit of dimension like that. And I'm going to make sure that dimension holds by adding a little foam tape under the petals. And then just peel my backers off. And I'm just using these foam mounting squares from Dollar Tree. They're super sticky. And I like the thickness and the dimension it gives. And they're super cheap, so. Okay, again, I'm going to make sure that my folds are good, because even though I want dimension on these petals, I want the center of the flower down flat against the card. So I'm going to put some art glitter glue in there. And then get my flower lined up the way I want it. Stick those petals down. And I want to hold in the center of the flower and make sure that it gets held down to the card. And it doesn't take long to dry. And now I'm going to do the same thing with layer 2, which is the next size smaller. And it's 8 equal petals, so you can just go straight down the center and get that fold, and then do the next one straight down and get that one. And really create some dimension on there. You can even, if you want to, take a bone folder and crease every one of those to make sure that you keep that dimension. And for this one, I'm going to cut my foam squares in half lengthwise so that they're skinnier. And they'll fit better onto my smaller size of petals here. Could actually even do that with layer 1 if you wanted to, because it was kind of a tight fit on it. And that would save on your foam squares too, so might be a good idea to go ahead and do that on layer 1 as well. And again, peel off all my backers and put some art glitter glue in the center so that all of our centers hold down nicely. And on this layer, I'm going to offset my petals to where that they fall in between the petals of the layer before. And while holding my thumb down in the center to make sure that that gets glued, then I can press down on my foam squares to adhere the others. And believe it or not, those foam squares are strong enough to hold to the front of that glitter paper. They are very, very strong. So again, I'm going to hold that down, and that being kind of sunken in the middle really helps a lot, I think, to give that flowery dimension. And like I said, it doesn't take long for that art glitter glue to get a hold of it. And again, I'm going to fold my top layer. And I definitely want to crease with my bone folder on this one, because this is the very top layer of my flower and I want to get really good dimension on that. And again, I'm going to cut my strips narrow. But I'm also going to cut them lengthwise. And I've got little quarter pieces here of my original square to fit on my tiniest layer. And peel all those backers. It's a lot of peeling with all these little backers on every single petal, but I think it's worth it in the end because it really gives a lot of good dimension to this flower on the front of our card. Okay, and art glitter glue in the center. And again, offset the petals. Stick that center down first, and then your petals while you hold that in place. I'm going to hold on to that for just a second to make sure that that center sets with that art glitter glue. And now you've got your choice here of what you want to put in the center. You could put a flat back adhesive pearl. I think that would be really pretty. But I wanted a cluster And I just couldn't cluster my pearls to where it looked right to suit me. So I found this little button at Walmart. And it's just a little loop-backed button with all those beautiful sparkly rhinestones in the center. And all of the loops around the edge really made it look like the clustered center of a poinsettia to me. I really like that. And then in my mixed bag of sequins, I've showed you guys before, I don't know if you remember, but I had a large pack of assorted sequins, large and small, all different sizes and colors. And I found this flower-shaped gold sequin. And if you guys can see that opening in the center there was just perfect to put that through there with my little back side of my button. And that fits right through and allows me to back that with the gold color to really help bring out my sentiment. And look how gorgeous that is in the center of there. And for this, I'm just going to use some hot glue with my Surebonder glue gun. And I'll have links to where you can get everything in the description as well as over on my blog. And I'm going to glob that on pretty thick because I'm having to fill in that divot that I created. And it gets in between that loop and really kind of creates a holder for me. And then I just stick that right down. And give that a few minutes to hold. And I think that is just absolutely gorgeous in there. And look at all that dimension on our flower. I just love this, and I love this beautiful pattern. So you can finish this off any way you want to. You can leave it just like that. You can trim around the edges with some gold or maybe some pink. I think I'm just going to use a few little drops of stickles here and there in gold and diamond. Just some tiny, tiny little dots. Everything on the front of this card is either sparkly or metallic or both. So I don't want to go too overboard with this. They are adding more sparkle and more metallic. So I want to at least keep them subtle. And now some of the diamond. Maybe a couple more gold. So that is it for this card. I don't know if you guys can see the clear drops on there, but they really add a nice sparkle. I'll try to get some photos later on so you guys can see those. So I had a lot of fun with this collab with HappyBird today. I think this pattern was absolutely beautiful, and I think it made a wonderful, beautiful Christmas card. You guys be sure to go over and check out her channel if you haven't already. I'll have a link to her channel as well as her video where she makes her poinsettia ornament listed in the description below. Also a link to her blog where you can find the pattern and print that out so you can create a beautiful ornament like hers, or maybe a card like this, or whatever else you can come up with to use her beautiful patterns. I think she does a wonderful job with these patterns, so be sure to go over and check those out. Let me know what you think of my card in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well as HappyBird's channel. Give me a like over on my Facebook page, and be sure to join our Facebook group, Craftie Minds. Also follow me on Pinterest and Instagram, and don't forget to visit my blog. I'll put the links to all of those in the description below, so be sure to check them out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.